Welcome to week 3 of the GameTree blog and of our time at this accelerator in Poland. First off is going to be comparing Poland and Ukraine now that it's been a few weeks. Overall, they're more similar than different. People call Poland like a Ukraine light, where everything about Ukraine, from being kind of Eastern and kind of a second-ish third world country, everything like that's a little bit of a reduced version of Poland, or Poland's a more westernized version of Ukraine. A few things that stick out, though, that don't really make quite as much sense are one, that in Warsaw, the city we're staying, things are just way dirtier. There's a lot more like animal poops on the ground and trash and like hooker cards, which I find kind of unfair to Ukraine that gets a rap for being a place for like sex tourism. But I find that Poland reminds me of that a little bit more. I don't see it as much in the way that women dress walking around quite as much, but I do see kind of that like mentality or culture more ingrained, which is sort of ironic. And also something that sticks out is Poland has a very strong Catholic background. So there's a lot of really cool architecture of like big buildings and grand stuff, but at the same time, it's also a very like orderly and structured way of thinking and a little bit oppressive. And Poland is swinging very conservatively right now, especially among the youth, which is very weird because usually youth tend to be more liberal. So it's something, I think, a side effect of weird times that we're living in, but I'll be diving in a bit more about what is exactly that's making Poland like this in the face of otherwise larger trends of people coming together around the world and being more open with each other across borders. Part of it might be a little bit of ego from Poland doing really well for a lot of years and kind of being the rising star of Europe. So they think that maybe they're better and can be on their own. Some other stuff, though, on the flip side is gaming culture is a lot more developed. Like, I've gotten to go to gaming stores a lot easier and they're a lot nicer. There's more gamers. I went to this really cool trampoline place where there's like, it's not just trampolines, but there's like rock climbing and all sorts of like games and rides and sky obstacle courses. I went to that with another Maciek who I've been becoming friends with, who I met at like a contact improv dance, and then also Daniil from the GameTree team, a girl at Maciek seeing, and also one of their friends. So it's nice getting to know people and hanging out in that way. Uh, Poland also has a bit better food. Like if you go to Asian restaurants, a lot of the food's actually being made by Asian people, which is interesting compared to Kiev, where it's mostly white people because there aren't quite as many foreigners who live there. The thing about food, though, is that once you get used to it, it just becomes normal. So the first week was kind of exciting having this delicious food, and then I didn't really look forward to it that much anymore because it just became normal. And I think that's an analogy for a lot of stuff in life, where we're programmed to pursue dopamine to get rewards to go higher and farther and faster. But at the end of the day, it's the pursuit that makes us happy, not necessarily the attaining of the things, because then they just become normal. For example, even with GameTree, the first time I'd received like large investment in a company, it was something that was a big thing after years and years of work in startup world that I thought would be amazing, and it kind of was for like a few days, and then life is back to normal. And but it's knowing that you're doing something purposeful, I think, at the end of the day, that really keeps us motivated, because that doesn't run out. That's something that keeps going, and it outlasts dopamine hits. So in Poland, a lot of the time has been doing paperwork. I have to get like an ID number, and then I have to use that to go to some other place to get like a digital signature, and I have to use that to like register a bank with lawyers, and that process is like 100 steps, and then I have to use that new business account to then like open a bank. And just the process of setting up an account is like, yeah, like 100 times longer than it was in America. In America, I was able to just figure it out and do it myself in like a day, and everything worked out perfectly. But the Polish system is like really, really, really far backwards. It's like mind-bogglingly complex and obtuse. Uh, I don't know. Like we really need to like renovate some world systems because it's creating so much redundant work the way I see things. So that's a bit frustrating. We've been now with the Polish Accelerator for like a little over 3 weeks now, 3.5 weeks, and we still don't have the company fully incorporated, and we haven't received the money that we're supposed to get from the accelerator, so that's kind of annoying. But hopefully this week. We did find an apartment, though. Daniil and I are going to be living together at like a house where there'll be some Erasmus students, and it's in this kind of hip neighborhood where it seems a lot more cozy, which is nice, and it's also one of the older neighborhoods that survived all the bombing from World War II. It's kind of got an interesting vibe to it, so I'm excited to move in there finally and have that out of the way. But overall, it feels like half the time has been administrative stuff that hasn't really added that much value to GameTree. So hopefully the acceleration program will make up for that with mentors and stuff. And on that note, we did meet a guy, Lucas, who was referred through them, who works in the gaming industry, and he really understood GameTree and the big vision, and seems very knowledgeable and wise in a way. That I just got a good vibe from him, and he's looking through his network, seeing if there's appropriate matches for GameTree. So that's really cool to find somebody who's smart, competent, willing to help, and connected, because that's something that's really hard to find in Ukraine. So if that plays out well, that could be a really big, nice thing. Also on Friday, we did presentations, like pitches, kind of like opening pre-party, and Machik, the guy I went trampolining with, I'm going to try to recruit him into GameTree, so maybe you'll be hearing from him more. He's one of the first people working on super cute computers in Poland, very friendly, nice, open-minded, but he was also giving really good information on the pitches themselves and feedback. So he's pretty well-rounded and seems like a nice person to have on a team for a startup when there's so much to be done. And we actually ended up doing pretty well with the pitch. The main organizer told us that he thought that we did the best job, and maybe like 8 or 9 people came up afterwards and suggested like business deals or wanted to have follow-up meetings. Maybe like 5 or 6 more said it was the best presentation, so I'm really happy that that came out well, because in the pre-pitch before Maciek and Daniil's feedback, it was sort of like hard to tie everything together, and that's been one of my big problems with GameTree, is communicating how big the vision is. Actually, last week I wrote this thing to kind of try to sum it up, to put it into words more concisely and share it around to get feedback. So what's written is, GameTree helps gamers discover better options and faster for friends, games, news, and more. It does this by curating the overabundance of information in the world of gaming to the individual gamer by considering their personal tastes and psychology with the best recommendation AI in the industry. This is all wrapped in a vibrant, non-toxic, and quickly growing gamer community to create a needed household app for all gamers. And then there's a couple sentences about monetization and the competitive advantages we have. But in the end, it's not just a company, it's kind of a revolution in the way that things are being discovered in peer-to-peer communication in the world of gaming. So I think that articulates stuff a bit better, and it's nice to have that written out. Also last week, booked the flights to China for the AI program that invited us, and then to GDC. And I'm trying to figure out the GDC booth and all the meetings there, meetings with Silicon Valley people. There's just so much to do and not a lot of time. I'm actually inviting my siblings. My sister is like a super brilliant engineer and very, very friendly and personable with everyday people. Like easy to get along with, very emotionally generous. So I want her to come to help with the booth. And also my brother is a hardcore gamer, and he has a background in like sales and business development. And so he would also be good for talking business with people. So I really want my siblings to be able to come, and I haven't been able to see them very much at all in the last like 3 years because of having moved to the Eastern Europe, to work on this. So excited if they come, and they could also bring a car and materials to set up the booth and plan the booth, which would also help a lot because I don't have a car. So working on that. And then also we've been planning a contest, since we have extra tickets with the GDC booth, for the GameTree community, ways to get some of the fans to come, or maybe even to help, or to get word spread of GameTree, or to get success stories, things like that, to be able to give away these tickets now that we actually have something we can give, because it's really been hard to do stuff when we don't have resources to pay or promote or reward people. So so the tickets I've booked. One thing I did was I booked 2 wrong flights, because I'm also planning to visit Kiev a couple times. I'm here now, just to visit friends, girlfriend, cat, the team as well under Brainstorm. And I booked tickets wrong twice, and that's just really frustrating. According to my personality psychology analysis, is I have like my kind of biggest weakness, the part of my brain I use the least, that's sort of a demon, is extroverted sensing, being aware of like my sight and my senses and short-term information surrounding. And it's like frustrating because I'll like know what the ticket is, I'll like double check it, I'll like really try hard to like look, and I'll still have like the wrong month or a week off, and it's just like really frustrating. People are easy, logic is easy, understanding the feature and strategy are so easy. It's just like seeing the real world that's like really frustrating. So just in my own evolution, that's something I have to do a lot. I really want to go to Mongolia in the fall for a month to like spend more time in the real world, because not just my brain type, but also living in a world of computers and information in my job role have like super hyper polarized my personality into like an abstract world. And I think that going to Mongolia and like kind of suffering there a bit and doing more survival stuff will round out my personality. And in the meantime, playing like Warhammer, painting models, doing more like physical stuff, or going to the trampoline place, more stuff that could put me in the real world, I think will help balance me out. Uh, Arena, the girlfriend who'd applied for design job, she didn't end up getting the position. As I'd mentioned last time, I had somebody else make the decision because I'm obviously biased. But at the same time, that was crushing because I am traumatized by working with designers flaking off. But I was able to convince our last designer to come back, and things are looking good. And then we had a brainstorming meeting. So she seems pretty on board, but I'm really hoping that things stay ahead with the schedule because I really want to get designs made not just for the things we need in the short term and some supporting materials, but also to get as much of the next version of GameTree planned out so we can start developing those and so I can show it to investors when I'm in China and Silicon Valley. Um, yep, and then I'm going to be meeting somebody from Microsoft who I'm excited about. Uh, I think there's really good potential for GameTree to help them with their like Netflix for games subscription model to do the game recommendations, because getting a good recommendation on the first games is going to be super important, and we're the best positioned to do that. There's actually a lot of things that GameTree can do to help people, but it's kind of hard to make deals without the personal connections, without being deeper in the industry or more physically located to people, or with like strong tied in investors already. Getting these connections is hard even if we're capable of fulfilling them, because usually I've noticed that any business to business communication, or if you're ever reaching influencers or just busy or large people in general, just tend to get ignored. But there's some connections to the like, heads of Microsoft for like Poland or Central Eastern Europe. So trying to work that, and if that works out, it could be huge. But otherwise, there's some other business deals, and I have a meeting today that could also be potentially really big. Yeah, so I'm back in Kiev now. It's been really nice visiting. Had friends over, and then flying back to Poland tonight. But that's it for this week. I'll catch you next time.